Ever heard of Roswell, New Mexico? For most people, that name means one thing: UFOs. But what really happened back in the summer of 1947? Was it a flying saucer from another world, or something much more down to earth? Let us travel back in time and uncover one of the most famous and enduring mysteries of the 20th century. Our story begins in early July 1947. A rancher named W. Mac Brazel was out checking on his sheep after a fierce thunderstorm. As he rode across his property, about 75 miles northwest of Roswell, he stumbled upon something strange. The field was littered with debris, unlike anything he had ever seen. There were metallic sticks, pieces of a strange foil-like material, and bits of what looked like parchment with odd symbols on them. This foil was particularly weird. You could crumple it up, and it would immediately smooth itself back out, completely unwrinkled. Brazel didn't think too much of it at first. He collected some of the material and, a few days later, on July 6th, he drove into Roswell to show it to Sheriff George Wilcox. The sheriff was baffled. He contacted the local military base, Roswell Army Airfield, which was home to the 509th Bomb Group, the only atomic bomb squadron in the world at the time. This wasn't just any military base. It was a highly sensitive and crucial part of America's national defense. Major Jesse Marcel, the intelligence officer for the 509th, was sent to investigate. He accompanied Brazel back to the ranch and was astounded by what he saw. He later described the debris as being made of a material that was not of this earth. He gathered up a significant amount of the wreckage and brought it back to the base. This is where things get really interesting. On July 8, 1947, the public information officer at Roswell Army Airfield, Walter Hott, issued a press release that would make headlines around the globe. It stated, and I quote, "The many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday when the intelligence office of the 509th Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force Roswell Army Airfield was fortunate enough to gain possession of a flying disc. The military itself was confirming that they had recovered a UFO. The Roswell Daily Record ran a banner headline that screamed, "RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region." The story exploded, but just as quickly as it started, the story was shut down. The very next day, the military held a press conference. Brigadier General Roger Ramey, the commander of the 8th Air Force in Fort Worth, Texas, announced that the flying disc was, in fact, just a weather balloon. To prove it, they laid out some debris on the floor for reporters to photograph. It looked like the tattered remains of a standard weather balloon with a radar reflector attached. Major Marcel was even made to pose with the debris, looking visibly uncomfortable. The official story was set. Nothing to see here, just a misunderstanding. The public moved on, and for over 30 years the Roswell incident was largely forgotten. So, what changed? Why are we still talking about it today? The story re-emerged in the late 1970s. UFO researchers Stanton Friedman and William Moore started digging into the old case. They tracked down Jesse Marcel, the intelligence officer who had first collected the debris. By this time, Marcel was retired. He went on record, claiming the weather balloon story was a complete cover-up. He insisted that the material he found was otherworldly, strong, light, and covered in strange hieroglyphic-like symbols. He was adamant that what he held in his hands in 1947 was not a weather balloon. Marcel's testimony opened the floodgates. Over the next several decades, hundreds of other witnesses came forward, many of them for the first time. These weren't just random people. They included military personnel, government officials, and local Roswell residents who claimed to have seen or been involved in the incident. Some spoke of a second crash site, where not just debris, but an entire craft and its occupants were recovered. One of the most compelling accounts came from Glenn Dennis, a young mortician in Roswell in 1947. He claimed he received several strange calls from the airbase mortuary officer asking about child-sized coffins and how to preserve bodies that had been exposed to the elements. He even said he saw strange wreckage and was warned by a military nurse about what she had witnessed during autopsies of non-human bodies. Then there was the testimony from Major Edwin Easley, the provost marshal at the base. Before his death, he confirmed to researchers that there was a cover-up, stating that the military's job was to get the story straight and keep it that way. Frank Kaufman, a civilian who worked at the base, also claimed to have seen the craft and the bodies of its extraterrestrial crew. With all these new testimonies, the UFO theory gained massive traction. The narrative shifted from a simple debris field to a full-blown crash of an alien spaceship, a military recovery of the craft and its crew, and an elaborate government conspiracy to hide the truth from the public. Books were written, documentaries were made, and Roswell became the epicenter of UFO culture. Faced with mounting public pressure and congressional inquiries, the U.S. Air Force decided to reopen the case in the 1990s. They published two extensive reports. The first, released in 1994, was titled The Roswell Report: Fact versus Fiction in the New Mexico Desert. This report concluded that the debris found was not from a standard weather balloon, but from something much more secretive, a high-altitude balloon from a top-secret program called Project Mogul. Project Mogul was a real, classified military project designed to detect sound waves from Soviet atomic bomb tests using microphones flown on these massive balloon arrays. These balloons were made of neoprene, carried radar reflectors made of foil and balsa wood sticks, and flew at extremely high altitudes. The report argued that the description of the strange Brazilian foil and the hieroglyphics, which they suggested were markings from the tape used to assemble the radar targets, perfectly matched the materials used in Project Mogul. This, they claimed, explained why Major Marcel, an intelligence officer from a different unit, wouldn't have recognized the materials. It also explained why the military would want to cover it up. Project Mogul was top secret in 1947 during the dawn of the Cold War. This explanation seemed plausible for the debris. But what about the alien bodies? The Air Force addressed this in a second report in 1997, called the Roswell Report. Case closed. This report suggested that the alien body stories were a mix of hoaxes and distorted memories. They proposed that witnesses might have confused the Roswell incident with other, unrelated military accidents involving dummies or even human casualties. For example, they pointed to high-altitude parachute tests where anthropomorphic dummies, sometimes called Oscars, were dropped from balloons. These dummies were life-sized, but from a distance or after impact, they could have looked strange or non-human. The report argues that over decades, people's memories merged the 1947 balloon crash with later events involving these test dummies, creating the myth of recovered alien bodies. So, where does that leave us? On one side, we have the official government explanation, a top-secret spy balloon from Project Mogul. This story is logical, supported by declassified documents, and explains the need for a cover-up in 1947. It neatly ties up the loose ends of the debris and offers a plausible, though less exciting, reality. On the other side, we have the UFO hypothesis, supported by dozens of first-hand and second-hand witness testimonies. These accounts from military officers, government employees, and ordinary citizens paint a vivid picture of a crashed extraterrestrial vehicle and a massive cover-up. Believers argue that the Project Mogul story is just another layer of the cover-up, designed to discredit the witnesses and hide the most profound secret in human history. They ask, why would so many people, many of them respected military men, lie or maintain such a detailed, consistent story for decades, often on their deathbeds? Skeptics push back, pointing out inconsistencies in the witness accounts. Many of the first-hand witnesses were actually relaying stories they heard from others. Memories can be faulty, especially after 30, 40, or 50 years. The power of suggestion and the influence of popular culture could have shaped what people believed they saw. For example, the description of the aliens as small beings with large heads and big eyes became popular. After the 1970s resurgence of the story, fitting a common sci-fi trope, the debate is a perfect storm of secret military projects, Cold War paranoia, and our collective fascination with life beyond Earth. Was the initial press release a mistake by an overzealous officer who didn't know about Project Mogul? Or was it an accidental slip of the truth that the government has been trying to retract ever since? Was Jesse Marcel a confused intelligence officer who couldn't identify a simple balloon? Or a brave man telling the truth about an extraordinary event? Were the hundreds of witnesses all mistaken, confused, or lying? Or were they telling the truth about what they saw? To this day, there is no single piece of physical evidence, no smoking gun that can definitively prove either side. The original debris is long gone. The alleged bodies were never seen by the public. All we have are stories, reports, and conflicting explanations. Whether you believe it was a weather balloon, a secret spy project, or a visitor from another galaxy, the Roswell incident has left an indelible mark on our culture. It forced us to ask big questions about our place in the universe and the nature of secrecy and trust in our own governments. The truth, whatever it may be, is still out there, buried somewhere in the New Mexico desert or in a classified file deep within a government archive. What do you think really happened at Roswell? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's greatest mysteries, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. See you next time.